Come back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
I'm with a person probably known to most of us, not as Len Capola, but as AJ's daddy. How you doing, Len?
I'm doing very well, actually. Thanks for asking. And I am known that way. In fact, I think 3 or 4 years ago, 6 years ago, I went to the hospital to have my colon examined. And
Been there.
it's not a real pleasant thing. And so I'm waiting and, in the bed waiting, and the nurse comes in, who happens to be a member of this church, and she says, "Aren't you AJ's father?" Yeah.
Well, you could be known by a lot worse
That's for
things
sure.
than AJ is a great guy. He's a huge asset. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut,
Okay, what town?
a little town called Seymour. It's just outside of New Haven, about an hour from New York City.
Okay.
And went to school, 12 years of Catholic school.
I only did 8.
Yeah, I did the first 8. I think ours was tougher than yours. I was thinking about that the other day. First of all, I think the biggest misnomer in the world was that the teachers were called the Sisters of Mercy. But we were told once that if you ever told a story about a boy who went to communion who had a mortal sin, and when he opened his mouth, worms came out.
My overall experience was pretty positive. I was an altar boy, and that worked out well for me. And overall good experience.
Yeah, my high school was an all-boys school, and that was a real positive experience. And then went to school at Northeastern and started teaching, taught 9 years in Massachusetts, and then 2 years here.
And so when did you move to Gilford?
1980.
And what were you teaching?
I was the Social Studies and Art Department Chairman, and I taught, I only had, at that time, I had something called the administrative team, or the A-team. So Department Chairman only taught 2 classes. And I taught a history class, and I taught a humanities class with the principal at that time, and I developed a course, which is how first time I ever stepped into this church, called The Family. So it's kind of a sociology course, but it was really very experiential. I try to make it that for the kids, so I wanted them to see what it really means to have a family and try to do a number of different things. And so we were going to have a wedding, and I made the kids go and do a list of people you're going to invite, because that's not an easy thing to do.
Sure.
Especially, I come from a very big family, and you don't eliminate anybody in an Italian family. So they had to do that, and they really got into it. They're juniors and seniors, and so first time I walked in here, I got in touch with Ray Wixon and told him about it, and he was very pleased to. So we came over here.
Oh, neat.
And had a ceremony, and that was it was a fun course. Most of my teaching I was a department chairman in Massachusetts also, but I taught more of sociology and psychology, anthropology. Those are more of my interest than history and that type of thing. Yeah.
About what year would that have been that you had the little mock wedding here?
That was, I believe, in the spring of 1982.
82, okay.
Yeah.
So when you moved to Gilford, there was no AJ.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because he would have been born about 87. He was about
86. Yep.
86, just a little older than our CJ.
Yeah. And there were no children. I had been married once before, no kids out of that marriage, and it was time for me to pursue something different. I worked in a very rural town in western Massachusetts. It was fed by it was a regional school fed by 6 through 12, 7 through 12. One town was a very kind of a mill town, and the other town was a nouveau riche type of town, a lot of people in Worcester. In fact, if you watch the news, there was a woman, girl, Molly Bish, who 20 years ago disappeared in an old town called Warren. That's where I taught. I didn't know her. So it was an interesting experience there. It was a very diverse population. And then coming up here, this was 6 through 12, and that was when there were no walls in the school, which was a great idea, but unfortunately they hired pretty much a traditional faculty. So, yeah.
And when did you start attending the church?
I started, well, in '82, I left and teaching. I went into a sales position and moved to Sanbornton and lived there until 1996, at which time I was allowed to move back into Gilford. Which I did because I wanted Mia and AJ really to go to, Mia was, I think, just starting in junior high, and I wanted them to go to Gilford. And so I came to the church.
So Ray Whitson died in '96, I think September of '96.
Yes, it was, having grown up Catholic, you go to church, and, some things are very difficult habits are difficult to break, I mean, when they allowed you to eat meat on Friday, I felt so like, are you watching here? Is it? But I liked church, and we had attended the First Baptist Church in Sanbornton, which is really nice. It's very different than Catholicism, When I started in Catholicism, priests said their Mass with their backs to you.
Yep.
And I went to the Italian church, and the Mass was said in Latin, and the sermon was said in Italian. So
Did you speak any Italian in your home?
No, it was a time that my dad was the oldest of 9, and my mom was one of 4, and they all spoke Italian, but at that time, it was kind of looked down upon to speak a different language. So they really wanted you to speak English, regrettably, so no, I never.
Yeah, because Italian's a beautiful language.
Yeah, they do. I know some words that I would hear repeated every once in a while by my grandfather, who came here. He was the one, my father was first generation American. And so no, none of that. But I wanted to go back to a church I liked here, and I forget his name. It was James.
James Bowen was here?
Yeah, that was him. And he came in, and he was oratorically very, I thought, exciting. And he did at Easter, he did a thing off of Jesus Christ Superstar. In fact, the Briggs young lady was one of the singers in there. A lot of people in the church didn't quite get that. So I started coming here, and then I liked coming, and then the family came, and then Donna had taken over before you came in, and we became members of the church, I think in '99 maybe, yeah. So it's been a nice place to come to.
Yeah, well, I tell you, it's worked out well for the church. I can't imagine what our music program would be without AJ.
He's, he really loves doing it. He enjoys what he does for work. I often am pleased to see some of the comments that some of the choir members make about how much they miss being with him and stuff. He's a good guy, good kid.
AJ's kind of like those Catholic priests. When he's working, he has his back to the congregation too.
That's right.
But I'm fortunate. I get to see his face, and I love his facial expressions.
I remember the first time he conducted, and you said that. You said, unfortunately you can't see, but yeah, he kind of gets into it.
That's worth the price of admission.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, I think AJ mentioned once to me that you had a plan to maybe take your family to Disney World. Did that happen?
No, that was, it was a plan. I was going to send me and Greg and my 2 grandchildren and AJ to Disney. So, as a Christmas gift. And I got a place through Airbnb for like 2-bedroom place for $600 for the week. Got some very inexpensive airfares out of Boston. It was great. I was going to give the kids, some additional money to spend there, and figured they'd have a nice time. And then COVID-19 showed up. And when I first tried to get my money back, from the Airbnb, they were only going to give me half and stuff. But then as things got worse, I got all of the money back from that. So, and thankfully, I think by the time that was going to be during their April vacation, which is the last week of April, and by the time that took place, most of the parks were closed at that point, and of course the safety reasons and things. So, I don't know, maybe next year for them, if things improve.
Yep.
It's going to be questionable.
Yeah, it appears that Florida was really one of the states that was pretty irresponsible in their reopening strategy, and they're really paying the price right now, sadly.
Yeah, and they still seem to be in denial about that type of thing, and it's really, I do think we need a central figure. One of the things I learned when I was a department chairman in Massachusetts, another English department chairman, was a great guy. The principal wanted us to eat out with the kids, and I didn't really want to do that. I smoked cigarettes at the time, so Ed was going out there, and I said, "Oh, so you're falling in line, huh?" And he looked at me, he said, "One cannot lead if one cannot follow." And very true statement, so I think
What a good quote.
Yeah, it is. It's a great quote, and it's, I think, very accurate. If you can't lead it by example, you probably really can't lead. So I think this is a lot more difficult than it has to be. And I don't think we're even close to being where we need to be. Dr. Fauci said, what does he know? He said if he could get 70 to 75% of the people to take the vaccines, he'd be very, very satisfied with that. And it does strike me, the whole anti-vaxxers. I remember when I was in Catholic school and the polio vaccine came out. And we went over to the church and we got the polio vaccine. That was a very exciting type, Dr. Salk had, discovered that, and it eliminated stuff. And it's a different world.
Yeah, the anti-science people are really distressing. People think we didn't go to the moon, the earth is flat.
Yeah, I don't understand the motivation. Some people use that to make money, the conspiracy theorists. I forget, he was eventually sued, but the guy who said that the kids in Sandy Hook, were all, how do you do that? I mean, I don't know how those, I'm on an email with some of those parents, to raise money, and it's called Everytown. And every once in a while you see, today would have been so-and-so's, birthday, and I don't know.
Now, I'm guessing that people watching this won't be able to see what's on your shirt, so we'll get a little bit closer.
Yes.
It looks like an N and a Y.
It is.
It is. Now, can you explain that?
Yeah. As I said, I grew up outside of, about an hour outside of New York City. I have been a diehard Yankee fan since I can remember. My cousin Joe and I are the same age. We used to get on a train, go down to Yankee Stadium, watch a couple of baseball games, and so I'm pretty sure that, when this life is done, I'm pretty certain I'm going to go to heaven. I did do the 9 First Fridays with Mass and Communion, and I installed this. But I think this is kind of purgatory because I've been living here since 1980, plus when I was in college, and so really since 1970, I've been in either Massachusetts or New Hampshire. New Hampshire's the longest place where I ever lived. And being a diehard Yankee fan was great up until 2004.
Yes.
So yes, that's still, and one of the encouraging things is hopefully baseball's coming back. I just really like the sport. So.
Yeah, I hope so too. My daughter Katie is a huge, especially Patriots, but she likes the Red Sox as well. And her nephews live in Hartford, Connecticut, and that's kind of an in-between area.
Yeah.
And Katie is not the most religiously committed person, but I think she prays almost every day that Jaden Graham and Jax will root for the Patriots and the Red Sox, and not the Giants or Jets or the Yankees or the Mets.
Yeah, in Connecticut, if you're north of New Haven, like in the Hartford area, those are mostly Red Sox fans. And where I grew up, it was mostly Yankee fans, although I had one uncle who was a diehard Red Sox fan. I had another uncle who was a diehard Dodgers fan, and one who liked the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Browns. So.
Now that person didn't have many good seasons.
No.
Especially with the Cleveland Browns. Tigers have had a few winning seasons.
Yeah, they have. So, I've been more of a New York. It's been very interesting coming here. I grew up in a small town where I went to high school, which was in West Haven. Kids made fun of me because I was from a small town because there's only like 25,000 people in the town. So I came up here and said, yeah, I'm a small town guy. And then we moved to Sambrinton, and there were like 1,500 people there. I'm like, geez. My mother was when she came up the first time, she said, there are no sidewalks here.
No streetlights either, probably.
We were living, in fact, when Dawn and I were first married, we were living in Gunstock Acres, and that wasn't nearly as developed as it is now. This area wasn't nearly as developed as it was now. And we're driving, and she's like, are there bears around here? And so it was a very different experience, but it's nice. This is a great place to live.
Oh, I love living here. And finally, what have you been doing to take care of yourself?
Not as much as I should be, unfortunately. Trying to eat better. I've been trying to get outside and exercise. I retired from work a few years ago, 2016, and that lasted about 6 months. It's very difficult. I felt so useless.
Yeah, you need a reason to get up in the morning.
It just was, I was accustomed to pretty much most of my career. I was in a management position, so there was a lot of responsibility and that type of thing. And, I don't play golf. I don't particularly like to lay on the beach or anything like that, which is what retirement used to be. So I was fortunate enough to find a job where I'm licensed all over the country to sell life insurance. They provide the leads. I'm an independent contractor, so I can work as much or as little as I want. And it takes up my time, and it gives me something to do.
And have you been able to continue that through this?
Yeah. In fact, one of the new questions within the last month on an application for life insurance is, in the last 5 years, have you tested positive for COVID-19 or self-isolated or, and are you awaiting the test of results of a test for COVID-19? So it's in the system now. Yep.
That's good.
Yeah. So, I've been able to do that. As I say, it takes up some of my time, and being on my own, I don't get out as often as I used to. I mean, my favorite things to do used to be to go to the movies. I love going to the movies. And I like going to restaurants, and I would usually sit at the bar because I didn't like sitting at a table by myself. So those things were off the table. Then baseball season got canceled, so, yeah, so. But, yeah, I haven't gotten back into the gym yet. I had an excuse up until a couple days ago, because it was closed, but, you know, it's, as you get older, things do start to happen that you don't anticipate or going to.
Been there.
Yeah, it's just, you wake up and, a lot of times when I talk to people, when I tell them how old I am, they go, oh my gosh, I thought you were much younger. You sound like you're in your 40s or 30s. I said, well, if you realized how I felt when I got up this morning, you'd realize that's not the case. But it's my health is good, and I get to be close to kids when I can see them. I haven't seen the grandkids other than to bring them Jordan's ice cream and wave. So that's difficult, but that's pretty much been the deal.
Well, I think any day that I get up is a good day.
I call it a victory.
Yeah. Hey, and I'm glad to see you back in your pew.
I'm glad to be here. It's I think about the church a lot. As I said, this is nice that you're doing this. There's so many nice people here. I'm just taken back sometime by how nice some of the, Walter Flynn, Walter and Mary, Carl Carter, Dick Peterson, Dick Waite. Dick Waite was a lifesaver for me when I went through my divorce. He was just Dale Normandy. Lisa and Doug, who just joined the church.
The Bartletts, yeah.
The Bartletts. Molly and her husband. Just so many really nice people. It's and the kids. Laurel Gingrich. Kids, I think, are the thing that keep me positive about the future. When I see the kids come back from, the trips or confirmation and hear them speak, kids, they have that, they're starting out, so they still believe they can get it done, and they can. So it's just really nice to see how they're growing. The young boy, I don't know his first name, I think his last name is Richardson. He's been playing with
Alex.
What a great, I said to his dad one day, I said, your son is just an outstanding kid. So there's that, and there's so many of them, Connor Leggett. And most of these guys I don't know, but just really nice families. For the time I've been coming here, it's been one of the best hours of the week that I have. It just kind of settles things and gets you away from the normal stuff. So.
If you're not part of a faith community, whether it's a synagogue or a mosque or a church, you could go weeks at our age without seeing children.
Yeah, that's right.
And yet in places like this, week after week, we get to, interact with them and to see them grow, and what a treat that is. Yeah,
it's from seeing them go down for children's time and getting to see them as they grow. And the one thing I've noticed about you, and I've felt this for a long time, I know you like what you do, and I know you enjoy what you do, but I think the thing that you enjoy the most are the baptisms. When you get to hold the baby, and you just take on a totally different persona or glow about you, and it is really neat, because when you get a young child and, just wonder how their life is going to be. So, yeah, it is nice to be exposed to them, and again, for me, it gives me confidence that the world's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I think, of all the rituals that the church is involved with, baptism is the neatest one, really, because we hold a little infant, and we don't know whether that little girl is going to be the first woman president, a CEO, a teacher, or struggle to make something of her life. We don't know that, but we declare with all of our heart, this child is one of us, one of ours, and a child of God.
Yep.
Regardless of what they accomplish, their life matters.
And I think that the people in the church feel that, when you ask us, will you support this child? And I think that means a lot to the people, to the congregation, because, of course, we say yes, and it does give us a sense of responsibility. They become something more than just another person.
Yep.
So it is a nice part of our congregation here.
And I wish everyone had the opportunity on a Sunday morning to stand where I stand and look out at the congregation. Because when I see not only the kind-hearted people that come to the Gilford Community Church, but the wealth of talent, I just think, I think I've already died and gone to heaven. Forget this purgatory part.
Yeah, it is amazing how many, and as I've said to you before, it's really nice, because I know I disagree with a lot of the people here, politically probably, and a lot of the way I lead my life. But I don't disagree with them when I'm here with them, or I don't dislike them because of that, because you put a face and a personality with people who you just know are really good people, who are the type of people you want your kids to be exposed to, the type of people you want to hang around with, and they are amazingly talented, even beyond the music, which still astounds me.
Oh, yes.
It really, for such a small little congregation, it's wonderful. So yeah, we do have a nice group, and it's different than Catholicism. Catholicism, and I understand ritual. I think ritual is important. It's just kind of nice to be a member here than going to church because you have to.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and I think that the key word in our title isn't Gilford, isn't church, it's community.
I'll never forget when Warren Hutchins said that. He was doing,
You probably heard it from me.
He probably did.
Probably did hear it.
I'm not gonna
Or maybe I heard
Yeah.
it.
No, he said in his thing, he said when he was looking for a church, this was the only one that had the word community in it. And it struck me at that time that, yeah, it is a community. So, yeah, it's a nice, people reach out to each other, and people are kind to each other.
Yep.
It's really nice.
Well, and it's made nicer by your presence here, and I really appreciate this time we've spent together.
I do
Have
too.
a great day. It looks like the sun has come out.
Hey,
And go Yankees.
all right, there you go. Thanks.
Hey, perfect.